Breaking news tonight. Elon Musk has just shaken Westminster to its core. In a stunning move broadcast live on X, Musk unveiled what he says are secret UK government documents forcing Prime Minister Keir Starmer's administration into emergency damage control. What began as a seemingly ordinary debate over digital regulation has now ignited a full-blown constitutional crisis, one that threatens to bring down Britain's government itself. Markets are tumbling, royal protocol has been shattered, and millions of citizens are watching their prime minister's credibility disintegrate in real time. Here's the truth behind the chaos. Just 3 days ago, Keir Starmer stood before Parliament to announce sweeping new digital era laws. Under his plan, social media companies operating in the UK would be required to pay what he called a sovereignty tax on British user data. His message was fiery and unmistakable. The era of tech billionaires exploiting British citizens ends today. It was a move designed to rally Labour's working class base, people tired of feeling like their personal information is being traded by Silicon Valley elites. But what Starmer didn't anticipate was the global backlash that would follow. Elon Musk had no interest in quiet diplomacy, no closed-door meetings, no filtered negotiations. Instead, he went nuclear, live and unfiltered. During a Tesla board meeting streamed on X, Musk dropped a revelation that sent shockwaves through political circles worldwide. He unveiled what he claims are internal Labour Party documents outlining strategies to monitor and possibly restrict online political speech ahead of next year's general election. They don't want regulation, Musk told his 180 million followers, his tone icy with contempt. They want control over what British citizens are allowed to read, watch, and say online. This isn't about safety. It's about power. Within hours, the fallout hit like an economic earthquake. The pound sterling plummeted 2.8% against the US dollar, the sharpest single-day drop in more than a year. Tech stocks across Europe spiraled downward as investors began pricing in the risk of an all-out regulatory war between Silicon Valley and European governments. By the end of the day, the C100 had shed 2.4% of its value. At 2:15 p.m., the Treasury scrambled to issue an emergency statement, desperately attempting to calm the markets, but the damage was done. Former Bank of England advisor Timothy Harrington called it a devastating blow to the UK's financial credibility at precisely the wrong moment. But behind the statistics are real lives. British pension funds lost an estimated £1.9 billion in value in just one day. Retirement savings belonging to teachers, nurses, factory workers, and civil servants who had spent decades building security for their future. And yet, the biggest shock was still to come. What happened next will be remembered in British history books for generations. In a move that shattered 7 decades of royal neutrality, King Charles broke protocol during a private meeting of the Privy Council at Buckingham Palace. With senior ministers seated just feet away, the king spoke with a calm but unmistakably pointed tone, a message that many insiders describe as a direct rebuke of the government's digital regulation agenda. Britain's greatest strength has always been its commitment to open debate and the free exchange of ideas, Charles declared, his voice deliberate, every word measured. Any attempt to restrict that freedom, no matter how well-intentioned, risks undermining the very foundation of our democracy. The phrasing was diplomatic, but the meaning could not have been clearer. According to palace sources, the king personally reviewed the leaked documents Musk had made public and spent hours consulting constitutional experts on the monarchy's role in safeguarding free expression during political crises. Royal historian Dr. Sarah Mitchell told the BBC this represents the most significant royal intervention in active politics since the abdication crisis of 1936. The constitutional weight of the moment was staggering, and for Prime Minister Starmer, the optics were catastrophic. He now appeared cornered not just by tech titans and opposition leaders, but by the crown itself. But the political earthquake didn't end within palace walls. Across the country, the public response was erupting into something much larger. As the monarchy quietly signaled its disapproval, the streets of Britain began to roar. By nightfall, the backlash had turned into a nationwide movement. A YouGov poll released early this morning revealed that 62% of Britons, including nearly half of those who voted Labour in the last election, openly oppose any government attempt to regulate or censor social media content. Hours later, protests erupted across major cities. In Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, and Glasgow, thousands poured into the streets, carrying hand-painted signs and chanting slogans that echoed through the night. Outside the BBC's Manchester studios, the crowd chanted, "Hands off our internet!" In Birmingham, banners read, "Free speech isn't negotiable and Starmer equal to censorship." And this wasn't a staged political stunt or an opposition-backed campaign. It was genuine grassroots outrage. Ordinary citizens, students, workers, and retirees stood side by side, united by a simple message: don't silence us. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Rishi Sunak seized the opportunity with calculated precision. At an emergency press conference that evening, he delivered a sharp condemnation of Labour's leadership. This government would rather silence its critics than solve the real problems facing British families: NHS waiting lists, soaring energy bills, and a stagnant economy. They've lost their way, and they've lost the trust of the British people. Coming from Sunak, who had only recently suffered his own political defeat, the words carried weight. They highlighted a painful contrast between a government fixated on control and a public drowning in real-world struggles, and that gap between political priorities and human suffering was rapidly becoming Labour's greatest vulnerability. As anger spread through the streets, new revelations only deepened public disgust. Government expense reports obtained through Freedom of Information requests exposed a shocking picture of indulgence at the top. 3 cabinet ministers claiming more than £47,000 in entertainment expenses over just 3 months. While ordinary Britons rationed heat and groceries, that money was being spent on fine dining, vintage wine, and luxury travel. The contrast was infuriating. For millions, the outrage turned personal when the story of Margaret Thornbury, a 73-year-old retired nurse from Sunderland, hit national headlines. After dedicating 5 decades of her life to the NHS, Margaret slipped and broke her hip, then waited 14 hours on a hospital trolley before seeing a surgeon. Through tears, she told reporters, "I paid into the system for 51 years. I did everything right, worked hard, paid taxes, followed the rules, and now when I need help, there's nothing left." Her heating bill, she said, had tripled since last winter, and she feared she wouldn't survive another one. And while people like Margaret suffered, Downing Street's expense logs revealed £12,000 spent on wine alone for official receptions in the same month. The hypocrisy was staggering and impossible to ignore. Labour had campaigned on cleaning up government excess, promising to be the party of ordinary working people. But voters were watching the same familiar story: privilege for the few, hardship for the many, play out again under new faces. The fallout was immediate. In former Labour strongholds like Hartlepool, Darlington, and Bishop Auckland, support for the party plunged by double digits in just 6 weeks. Inside Number 10, panic had set in. Inside Number 10, the mood had shifted from confidence to chaos. Sources described an atmosphere of sheer panic, a government consumed by damage control and internal division. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper reportedly threatened to resign during a heated cabinet meeting unless the digital regulation bill was either watered down or delayed entirely. Meanwhile, Chancellor Rachel Reeves was overheard telling senior advisors that Starmer had completely misjudged Musk's influence and his willingness to go public. Private WhatsApp groups among Labour MPs, later leaked to The Telegraph, revealed growing dissent across the party. At least 15 backbenchers questioned the wisdom of confronting Musk directly. One MP summed it up bluntly: "We're picking a fight we can't win, with a man who has a louder megaphone than the entire government combined." Crisis teams worked through the night drafting potential responses, but insiders admitted there was no strategy that could avoid severe political damage. And then came the revelation that could end Keir Starmer's premiership altogether. According to leaked internal research, Labour's own strategy unit had conducted polling on internet censorship and digital regulation 3 months before Musk's acquisition of Twitter. The results were clear and damning. The polling showed that 76% of British voters opposed any government attempt to control social media content. Advisors explicitly warned that pursuing such policies would be politically catastrophic. Yet Starmer pressed forward anyway, confident he could sway public opinion through messaging and media management. If these reports are true, and 3 former cabinet ministers have privately confirmed their authenticity to the Sunday Times, it means the Prime Minister ignored both data and the will of the people. He knew the risks, he saw the numbers, and he did it anyway. The Sunday Times is reportedly preparing a full expose, complete with sworn testimony from civil servants who were present when Starmer dismissed the warnings. One advisor recalls him saying, "Voters are confused. They'll thank us later when they understand what we're protecting them from." That single sentence, dripping with arrogance and paternalism, may become the defining quote of his downfall. While Labour scrambled to contain its implosion, one man saw an opportunity and seized it with both hands: Nigel Farage. The veteran firebrand of British politics was already waiting in the wings, and this crisis gave him the perfect opening. As Labour's approval ratings collapsed, Farage's Reform UK party surged to 23% in the latest polls, just 5 points behind Labour's rapidly shrinking 28%. This wasn't a protest vote anymore. It was an existential threat to Labour's grip on power. Farage had found his weapon, free speech, and he wielded it with precision. At a packed rally in Birmingham this morning, his voice thundered through the arena. When governments fear their citizens speaking freely, then citizens should fear their government. Keir Starmer thinks you're too stupid to decide what information you can handle. He thinks he has to protect you from dangerous ideas. I believe you're smart enough to think for yourselves. The crowd erupted, cheers, applause, chants echoing off the walls. The moment was electric, and then came the boost no politician could buy. Elon Musk retweeted the rally clip to his 180 million followers, adding just 5 words, "Britain deserves better leadership than this." That post alone did more damage to Labour than weeks of opposition campaigning could have achieved. Farage was now positioning himself as the people's defender, the man standing between ordinary citizens and what he called Starmer's censorship state. But the tremors weren't limited to politics. 3 of Labour's most loyal trade unions, pillars of the party for decades, issued a joint statement expressing deep concern over potential job losses if global tech firms pulled investments from the UK. While they stopped short of withdrawing official support, they warned that all financial contributions would be under review if the crisis deepened. That wasn't just symbolic. Union donations are Labour's financial backbone. Without them, the party's war chest could shrink by millions, just months before the next general election. The political landscape was shifting fast, and Starmer's government was running out of allies, money, and time. By the time dawn broke over London, the crisis had spiraled beyond politics. It was now threatening Britain's entire economic stability. 5 major technology companies, including 2 U.S. giants, announced that they were reviewing planned UK investments worth a combined £8.7 billion. Foreign investors froze major projects, waiting to see if the Starmer government would even survive the week. And then came the blow that confirmed their fears. JP Morgan downgraded Britain's investment outlook to cautious for the first time since the pandemic. Inside Westminster, opposition MPs were already drafting no-confidence motions against the government. Talk of an early election began spreading like wildfire through the corridors of Parliament. Every hour brought new signs of collapse. Tech stocks continued bleeding value, international markets braced for uncertainty, and even within Labour's own ranks, whispers of leadership challenges grew louder. At this point, one question dominated every headline and every conversation across the nation. Would Keir Starmer even make it to the end of the week as Prime Minister? His downfall seemed almost inevitable, not because of a scandal or corruption, but because of a miscalculation of power. He underestimated the shifting balance between traditional governments and global tech empires. He tried to fight the future with tools from the past and was now watching that mistake consume his leadership. But beneath the chaos lies a deeper question, one that stretches far beyond Westminster. Is Elon Musk truly defending free speech or protecting his own empire from regulation? And if this political storm continues to intensify, will King Charles step forward once again to defend Britain's democratic freedoms? This is not just another policy debate, it's a battle for control over truth itself, and the outcome could redefine the relationship between governments, corporations, and the people for decades to come. So, where do you stand? Did Keir Starmer just destroy his own government by picking a fight he couldn't win? Or is this a new era of accountability where power finally belongs to the people? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story isn't over. Tomorrow we'll uncover the American political forces quietly backing Elon Musk in this escalating global showdown. And trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next.